Hey guys, my name is Kevin and welcome to my chapter 3 tutorial. It is called Variables and Constants. Now right before we jump into the code, I want to just quickly go over the major topics of this chapter. So let me just open up my Word document right here. Now there are many topics of this chapter, so I want to divide it into 3 separate programs. Now the first program introduces us to scanners, integers, doubles, then adding, subtracting, and multiplying. Pretty much what signs do we use in the code for adding, subtracting, multiplying? Pretty straightforward. My second has integer division and modular division. I would have added the division in with the adding, subtracting, and multiplying, but the division is a little bit strange, so I want to give some extra time on that. And then finally we have the formatting decimals. Pretty simple stuff. Let's just hop right into it. Now, before I dive into this code itself, I like to run my code for you to see what's happening, and then we'll digest the elements of this, and hopefully you'll get a sense of it. So, give me 1 second here. Okay, alright, sorry, it already ran previously. So it says enter a number, so let's just say 4. And then it says enter another number, 5. So now I've just separated, so it says 4. So it's when they're added, what happens? It equals 9. When they're subtracted, what happens? So what's 4 minus 5? Negative 1. And when they're multiplied, what happens? 20. So, and for those of you that don't believe me, yeah, 4 times 5, 20. So this is all right, and now we're going to continue with the code. Now enter a number with a decimal place. Let's say 4.7. Now enter another. Let's say 5.3. Now notice here that when they are added, even though it is 10, there is a 0 right here. I want you to have a mental note of that. Now when they're subtracted, it goes negative 0.5999, repeating until there's a 6 right there, and then a multiplying is 24.91. Now if you haven't already caught on, the difference between this half, oh sorry, give me 1 second here, between this half and this half is that the first half has decimals in there, or sorry, the first half doesn't have decimals while the second half does. Now let's quickly go and we'll see how this is happening. So I'm gonna drag that down so you will have the most room. So first let's go and check out this import package or import. So it is right under the package of, so the scanner, this segment is just the name of this program, and this is the package part. So right under the package we have what's an import java.util.scanner. So what a scanner is it pretty much takes what the user gives us. So it takes in user information. So under the public class, we have the public static void and all this gibberish, which is pretty much where our main code is going to happen. So in here, we have the scanner input dot equals new scanner system dot in right here. And this is pretty much telling us whatever is getting the user is telling us, it's getting put into here, this public static void. Now, what I have here are some variables. Now, if you look at the front of the variables, it says int. Int is short for integer. So I have named this integer as x. So I've just named this variable, which is an integer, as x. Now, the cool thing about integers is that they don't have decimals. They are just whole numbers, like we saw at the first half of my program. The numbers didn't contain any decimals. That is what an integer is. So if you look down here, it says integer adding, subtracting, and multiplying. I want you guys not to get confused that this adding does not add anything just yet. I haven't given any of these integers any value. They haven't stored any value. So when you see integers adding, subtracting, and multiplying just like this, then remember that they don't have any values yet. They don't have any stored values. Now if we come down here, we have a double x, double y, and then double add, subtract, multiply. like the previous one, they're just variables that store stuff inside. They're just, yeah, they're variables, and they get value stored inside of them. So the neat thing about doubles is that a double will store decimal places. So unlike integer, which can only have whole numbers, double will store decimal places. Now I want you to keep that in mind. So next we have the system.out.println, which is just a prompt. This is just prompting us. Here, let me show you it if it wants to drag back up. It's just this prompt right here. Pretty simple stuff. I'm not going to get into too depth into that, but I just want you to know. And then, so it says enter a number. So what I have right under it, it says x equals input dot next int. So what this does is that the next integer, so when the user inputs a number, the next integer that gets inputted, it will become stored as x. So it will become stored as x. So if you remember, I put in 4 as my first number. So 4 became stored into x. Next, if we go into the next line of code, it says system.out.println, enter another number. That's just another prompt. And like the previous time, the next integer that gets put in will become stored as y. So that was our 5. So now this is where the integer adding, subtracting, and multiplying get put into play. The adding doesn't have any value yet, but we're assigning it a value. So adding will become whatever x plus y is. So any number that's stored in x plus any number that's stored in y will become adding. Likewise, any number that is stored in x minus any number that was stored in y will become subtracting. Likewise, any number that's stored in x times, and now I want you to pay close attention. In coding, we use the asterisk or at least in Java, we use the asterisk as the multiplying sign. So this means that x times y. So whatever value is stored in x times whatever value is stored in y will become multiplying. Now, we have all this. Now we have assigned variables for all of these. Now what do we do with them? We have to put them into, we have to show what the stuff are, right? So we have to go system.out.println, and this is just telling me like when you add them, and then plus adding. This plus adding means that you're adding here, let me pull it up again so you don't get confused. So when you add the two numbers, it becomes 9. So what I'm pretty much saying is that, here, let me just pull it back down. So this is saying when you added the two numbers plus adding. So what did we assign for adding? X plus y. So whatever numbers was x plus y, that will become adding, which is 9 in our case. Likewise for subtracting, and likewise for multiplying. Pretty simple stuff. Next we go into now enter a number with a decimal place. It's almost exactly the same as the integer, except it literally just has a decimal place. Nothing too complex. So I said y becomes input. Now look here. Instead of next integer, it is a next double. This is very important because when we store it, we want it to store it as a double, right? Because we put a number with an integer. So it will become a double. So the next double will become w. And then likewise, now enter another, the next double will become x. So then I pretty much did this. This is pretty much the same as what I did over here. I just assigned, so these variables right here, add, sub, and multi, they're stored as doubles. So they can show so when here, let me pull it back up. So since they're stored as doubles, they can show the decimal points. Lastly, we have this input.close. So what this does is it tells the program to stop getting inputs from the scanner. So pretty much the end of the inputs. And then we just have the system.out.println, adding, subtracting, and multiplying. So that is just telling us the prompt and what it is, because of our values that we have signed. So this is my first program, and let's run it again with your newfound knowledge. All right. Enter a number. Let's say 6 this time. Enter another number. Let's say -3. So our adding is 3. Our subtracting is negative, or not -9, 9. Now that makes sense because 6 minus -3 is 9. And then our multiplying is -18. Yeah, 6 times 3 is -18. Now with a decimal place, let's see what happens when I put 5. Now enter another, let's say 5. So notice that nothing changed except if there was a decimal point now inserted. So it says 10.0 and subtracting 0.0 and multiplying 25.0 instead of just 25, 0, and 10. Alrighty, so that is my first program. Now let's go back to our checklist. And yeah, so we have done all this. Next we have integer division and modular division. Now I put this separate because they are a bit weird, and I wanted us to have a little bit of extra time on it. So to save me some time, I didn't put any scanner in there because we've already learned about scanner. So I've already initialized it as 5 and 3. I just wanted you to have it in mind of that. So like the numbers will always be 5 and 3. So I'm going to run this program. So we're going to take the numbers 5 and 3. Yep. So when I do integer division, the number 1 divided by number 2 becomes 1. Double num 1, modular division with double num 2 becomes 1.66666. Or not double, integer division. And then when I go num 1 mod num 2 is 2. And then double num 1 mod double num 2 is 2.0. Now, you may be really confused about that, and I will explain everything. So, what are the characteristics of integers? They don't have any decimal places. So, when we go integer division, since we have used integers, we're practically getting rid of the decimal place. So when we go, so this is what it is. The result is equal to num1, which is our first integer, and num2, and this is the sign for integer division, and num2, which is this right here. So that's 5 divided by 3. Here, so sorry about that. Let me just pull it up. So 5 divided by 3, pretty much. So we get 1.66667. Well, what do we remember about integers? They do not have any decimal places. So what happened here? When we went num1 divided by num2, we got 1 because it got rid of the decimal places. However, if we did that the same with a double, so we stored 2 new variables as a double, so that's double 5 and double 3 as double number 1 and double number 2, so we stored it as 5 and 3. And when we did that, the characteristics of double are that they do have decimal places. So if you look down here, 1.6666667, whatnot. Now modular division is somewhat hard to get, and it took me a little bit of while, but the gist of it is when you divide 3 into 5, so if it goes 3 mod 5, my bad, I'm thinking 5 mod 3, so say if you got 5, and then we don't have a mod sign, it says just %, 5 mod 3, don't listen to that, so how many times can 3 fit into 5? Once. So how many are remaining? 2. So what did we get here? We got 2. That's how much remainder there is. So then that's num1, and then pretty much that's the exact same, but with num2 it is 2.0 because there's a decimal place, right? So let's pick some new numbers. Let's go 6 and 4. And yeah, 6 and actually we'll keep the 5 and 3 here. So let's see what happens. Okay. Oh, I forgot to take the 5 and 3 out of here, but don't mind that. Okay, so num1 divided by num2. So let's do that. So num1 divided by num2. So num1 is 6 divided by 4. Okay. So we go 6 divided by 4, 1.5. But what happens with integers? We get rid of the decimal. We get rid of the decimal place. So it becomes 1. And now double, since I kept the double as the same, it's gonna still remain 1.66667. Now the num1 mod num2. So num1 mod num2. So how much remainder is it? Oh my god, I can't speak. Would there be? So there would be 2 remainder left, right? So that is the mod. And then 2.0, that it's just a coincidence that 5 mod 3 is the same as 6 mod 4. Alright, so that is the second program. That is integer division and modular division. Now third one, and this is formatting decimals. Alrighty, let me pull this up right here. And like the second program, I didn't put a scanner because just to save time. So you may see these numbers here: $2150, 1324, 0.667, and 15%. Now, if you've noticed anything about them, is that the way they're formatted are completely different. Look at the first one. It has a $sign. It has a it is formatted as money. The second one is formatted in its thousandth spot, like a regular number. Third one has it so it's formatted as a decimal, so 0.667. And fourth one is a percent. I don't know if you can see that, but that is a percent sign right there. It is shown as 15%. So when formatting decimals, it is it is important to remember that the first step is to do this import package. So this import java.text.number format. So what this does, it gives the package of the number formats such as money, number, decimal, percent. It gives us the format. So the number format class, which is a part of the java.text package, is used to create objects that format numbers. So it returns a string that contains formatted numbers. So it pretty much takes this and it returns it as a formatted number, if that makes sense. We'll go and I'll help you with this. So let's go through the thing. So we have four variables here. A double, so we have named this dollars. So this is 21.5. So notice how I didn't put any sign in front of the 21.5. Then we had integer number 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't put any comma between the thing. Double num1, the decimal, 2.0 divided by 3.0. Notice I didn't do anything to the number, like what happened right here. And finally we have double sale 0.15. Notice there isn't a 15%. There isn't a 15% right there. So then what we do is we get the format. So we get how we want it formatted. So we see this number format money. So this is pretty much saying that it's going to be formatted as money. So it says number format dot get currency instance. So that means it's returning the string. So it's saying that like we're getting the get currency package pretty much. I don't know if that makes sense. And then next we have the number format. So we're formatting it as a number. So how do we format numbers? We have a comma every 3 or in every thousandths place, or the 3 from the right, so every 3 from the right we have a comma. And then we have it as a decimal. So a decimal is like 0 point something, or and a percent, right? So this is pretty much returning the number instance and percent instance. So it's pretty much returning how we want it to get formatted. So finally we go system.out.println. So that's just saying how we're gonna get it printed. And it says money.format. So we're gonna get a money over here dot format, So we're gonna format dollars as money. So we're gonna format it as money. Likewise, the next line it says we're gonna format numbers as, or the variable num, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, as a number. And then number with a decimal, we're gonna format that as a decimal. And finally, a percent, or the thing of sale, we're gonna format it as a, give me 1 second here. We're gonna format it as a percent. Now, if you're wondering why I got a 0.667 right there, you see up here it says 2.0 divided by 3.0. We'll just do a quick calculation. 2 divided by 3, 0.66666. So it just rounded to 0.667, rounded to the thousandths place. 15%. So what was my 15? That's 0.15. So that's 0.15 times 100, which is what, 15%. 21.5. We formatted that as a dollar, and then we put this in the third thing from the right. So 1, 2, 3 to the right. There we go. So we put a comma every third number to the right, or if that makes sense. So yeah, this is how we practically format the numbers we get, so it wouldn't be tedious to go back and then go. So give me 1 second here. So instead of doing system, let's say system dot out dot print line, and then we can say dollar sign, and then plus, and then what's the it's dollars. So here, hopefully this works. So notice here, I've got it dollar sign. That's the same, but I didn't get that. I didn't get the decimal place for 50, and B, if I wanted to do this again, I would need to copy and paste it like hundreds of times. But however, if I just want to, but with this, I can easily just format it into this form. Much quicker. You can do it much simpler, much easier. And yeah, so that is the third program, and that is formatting decimals. So just to repeat, we went through scanners, which is pretty much getting the user input. Integer, which is just a whole number without a decimal. Double, it can be any number without or with a decimal, but like without a decimal, it would be, say, 15.0. It would still have a decimal, but there wouldn't be like theoretically any number in the decimal place, but it would still be 15.0. And then adding, subtracting, we learned what signs to use. Remember, asterisks for multiplying. Integer division, so pretty much getting the remainder. So say if it was 2 divided by 3, here, okay, I guess I closed out on my calculator, but if we remember, it was 2 divided by 3, it was 1.666. So if we did it as an integer, we got 1 only, because it doesn't carry any decimals. But if we did it as a double, we got 1.6666667. And then modular division, we're seeing how many times it can go. So 5 mod 3, so 3 can go into 5 once, and then there's 2 remaining, so the answer is 2. Really weird way of writing stuff, but oh well. And then formatting decimals. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. It sure was fun, and we'll see you in the next one.